One, and we're live. Welcome everybody to the Cave Podcast. It's me, Jarrell, and we got Danny in here as the co-host, and we got a special guest today. Very excited to have him on. Thank you for your patience, J2 Mattioli. There he is. He's the champ. He's our champ. J2 Mattioli. For all the jabronis out there that don't know who you are, enlighten the people, bro.
Hey guys, I'm J2 Mattioli, the Playmaker, and I am currently the EWF World Heavyweight Champion down in San Bernardino for Empire Wrestling. And I've also been the first level up champion for Level Up Pro Wrestling down in San Diego for B-Boy. And I've also been a champion in MPW up in Chatsworth. And you can also see me up in promotions like West Coast Pro, as well as Pride Style in Las Vegas. And I've dabbled in a couple stuff on Mexico as well. So you can always catch me anywhere.
Damn, you're the champ, bro. Do you just have all these belts at home or what?
I have one with me right now. I think it's in my garage. I try to keep it there. I never try to keep it in the car because they always say someone could break in and steal your shit. So.
I could see that happening.
Oh yeah.
Damn. So Danny and we chose us two, and we invited Zach, who also loves wrestling. But there's a few of us that are like we grew up watching wrestling, kind of fell off around high school, college. But dude, we're back in. We're back in like we dove back in like head first around the AEW.
We're all in.
They're coming up, yeah. And now we're back in, man. It's crazy. So having you on, it's an honor to have you. And dude, the champs of many leagues. So how's it feel? And how did you get into wrestling? Did you grow up watching it too, like we did, or?
Yeah. So I actually grew up with wrestling. So my mom was very close friends with Rey Mysterio Sr., the original Rey Mysterio from Tijuana. I was actually friends with his youngest son. We would be playmates. So I kind of grew up around that environment. And so I would go to Mexico and Tijuana and watch Lucha Libre matches all the time. But the funny part is that I didn't really care about Lucha Libre. I thought it was kind of like not my thing. So once I got a little older, I started watching WWE, and I was watching WrestleMania 20. And the first match I saw was Undertaker versus Kane. And this is when Undertaker came back as the dead man. And I was just so in awe, like when I saw this moment. And ever since, I just got like the wrestling bug after I saw it. And I would watch wrestling religiously. And that's kind of how I kind of got into wrestling. And it kind of made me want to become a wrestler when I was a little kid. So that's kind of the origin stories of how I got like into wrestling. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So it was around you, but you feel like since you grew up around it, you were kind of numb to it and desensitized to wrestling.
I think when I was watching Lucha Libre in Mexico, I think the masks weren't really what got my attention at first. I think what really got me from WWE was the presentation, the entrances, and that kind of stuff, like the pyro and stuff. Because most people will say, "Oh, Rey Mysterio is my favorite wrestler," but for me, I really liked The Undertaker. I really liked Kane. I liked those kind of like larger than life characters. That's what I was into.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I grew up loving The Undertaker. And I'm glad he came back to the dead man persona. I'm not mad at that about the American Badass, because I feel like him taking the break off that character upped the value of the character to make the pop a little louder for the return, right? So shout out to Undertaker, man. So you grew up around the Mysterios. That's like, I mean, we're going to talk about this later, but I feel like he would be a good argument for one of the faces in the Mount Rushmore of wrestling. How was that like?
So funny story is that most of the time when I talk about Rey Mysterio, the first person everyone assumes is Rey Mysterio from WWE. And the funny part is that I did know him when I was a kid. I just don't remember. because my mom was really involved with the family, and his son and daughter used to go to preschool where my mom worked, because she was like the principal at the preschool, and she would actually watch Dominic and Aaliyah there, I guess when they were little. This was a little bit after me, but I think Ray was there. He would come pick them up, and I think my mom would ask him for favors, like, "Hey, could you help do this parent event?" And I think one time he was like Santa Claus or something, and I think there's like a picture of me sitting on his lap, like mini Santa Claus, you know. So that's like my only interaction with him when I was younger, but I was more closer to like his uncle, who, you know, trained him and gave him the name Rey Mysterio.
So when I was younger, my family grew up around wrestling too. So like my cousins were into it. We would, you know, when the parents are having dinner during the parties, go to the room, lock the door. The youngest cousins would be watching the door, and, you know, we'd go at it, have our own pay-per-view in the room, practice some moves. You grew up around the wrestling scene. I mean, was that practice, or do you guys, would that happen, and would those events kind of occur in your family as well?
So I had some cousins that were really into wrestling too, and they were small, and I was like pretty large. So, and I had this huge king size bed. So every time they'd come over, we would just legit have wrestling matches in my room. And I had like a window that was a little high. So my little cousin, he was like the smallest one. He was a huge Jeff Hardy fan. So he always hit the swanton on me every time. And I just remember my mom would always come in, and she'd be so pissed. She'd be like, "What are you guys doing? Stop messing up the room. You're going to break the bed." But like, we just, you know, I feel like if you were watching wrestling, you were going to wrestle. It didn't matter if we saw the "Don't Try This at Home." We always did it regardless.
Oh, no. Yeah, absolutely. I think that being a kid and watching wrestling, that was one of the things I really enjoyed, was, you know, the family get-togethers and then all the cousins. And like, just get in one room and just fucking destroy it just by wrestling.
Each other.
The pillows were chairs. You would sometimes stack the pillows, and that's the table. Like, I remember that perfectly. Yeah.
Oh, the good times.
I always say that. I always say that I blame like our generation, the fans that watch wrestling, to the reason why wrestlers of today no sell. Because I remember like my cousin would hit me with the biggest moves, and he would hit me with like a chair, and I would like no sell it all the time. So that's where that came from.
Yeah, I hated that. I would sell. It was crazy because with the cousins watching, you know, it'd be a big family party, and all the cousins would be watching. You feel the energy, like the audience, you know. So sometimes when you pull like a move that you put a lot of effort in, your cousin just gets up. It's like, God damn it! Yeah. That's hilarious, man. So Undertaker and Kane, those guys are definitely one of my favorites as well. Your style isn't Undertaker or Kane though. How did your style come into fruition, and where did you draw inspirations from to get your the Playmaker?
So I was a very big, so when you first start wrestling, most of the guys that get started have like no idea about the indie scene. They have no idea about Japan. I would say about 80% of guys that sign up, and I was one of those guys. I only knew about WWE and maybe Mexico, but I remember starting to watch indie wrestling. And I started to watch New Japan, you know, and I started seeing how these guys were really athletic, hard hitting, and strong style. And I was a huge Okada guy. I really liked Kazuchika Okada when I was watching him when he was wrestling Kenny Omega and having these great matches. But he was kind of the start to. He was one of the guys that I was like really into, but he wasn't my big inspiration. My big inspiration came maybe 2 years after I already wrestled and debuted. One of my buddies was telling me, "Hey, like, look at your size, look at how you're built. You kind of remind me of the guys from like All Japan, the Four Pillars. You have that body type like those guys." So I started watching Misawa, Mitsuharu Misawa, and he was really the guy I just connected with. I was like, oh my God, this guy is literally like my size. He hits hard. He looks like he just caught my eye. So he was the guy who like really took so much inspiration from. I just loved the way he fought. I liked the way he did his moves. He did some crazy shit. So I don't know if I'll do that crazy shit, but like he's definitely the one guy that I was just like, this is who I want to be, you know? So yeah, definitely. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. If you haven't, please check him out.
No, I'll definitely have to check him out.
Absolutely. One thing I've wondered, you know, being in the ring and, you know, starting from the ground up, working your way up, is it something, how can you say? I'm sure it is something that you improve on over time for sure. But is this something like just your, like athletes, just, you know, how can I say, just going around? I mean, doing stunts, or is this kind of like an art, would you say? Because to me as a fan, I'd really see this as an art, but with other people that are outside, it's like, oh no, it's just guys doing whatever. But I mean, you really see the finesse into it. I mean, how do you see it as, you know, the guy doing it?
I definitely think it's definitely more towards the art form, because obviously we're trying to tell stories. We try to connect it to our characters. You know, if someone's a bad guy, they try to stay as a bad guy. If someone's a good guy, they try to stay as a good guy. And we're trying to tell that story together. And obviously there's matches that are more athletic, you know, that guys are doing some crazy stunts. But at the end of the day, there's a reason for it. It's not just done just because. They usually have a plan or a storytelling. But most people don't understand that, like, the reason these guys do these incredible stunts is because we expect them to, you know, at the end of the day, we're so used to it. It's like, of course, Phoenix is going to hit a 450 splash, you know, of course, Ricochet is going to hit a big, you know, moonsault, because we expect that as a fan. So to me, it's all art, no matter what. And, you know, people could say, oh, it's stunts. Oh, you know, but at the end of the day, these guys do it for a reason.
Right. Also, if there's
very well planned.
If you don't get the 450 splash from Phoenix, there's also a story for that, like an injury, right? Or some kind of psychological, I'm going to catch you if you do that type of thing. You know what I mean? So I feel like getting back into it definitely is a different member of the audience compared to when I was a little kid. I start to see the difference of the product with WWE and AEW. I feel like AEW, no offense, I love AEW, by the way. Sometimes they get lost. There's too many of the crazy shit where I feel like they do have intentions for that, but it's just, you know, too much of anything is a bad thing. As far as WWE, like if let's say it's a tables match, for AEW, you could go through the table like 8 times and there's a big 9th one for the final one, right? I feel like WWE can have I feel like WWE can pull off a 5-star match with just going through the table once because of their storytelling. So 100%. It's more theatrical, right? It's more poetic, I feel. And you could also have the gradient of the wrestling promotions that are just athletic, like the Lucha brand, you know? So I feel like now there's different flavors of wrestling, and it's not so monopolized like I was back then in the 90s or WWF at the time and everything, which leads to my next question. You wrestle for a bunch of leagues, man. Are they different brands as well? Like, are they different products, or do you have different characters for each of them?
So I used to have different, like, so one promotion would say, oh, I want you as a face. One promotion would be, oh, I want you as a heel. But I would say every promotion is kind of its own universe. So I wouldn't connect all of them. But it's a weird thing because it's SoCal. So if you're a heel here, then people expect you to be a heel there. So it's kind of connected, but it's not at the same time. So but lately I've been the same character. I finally fully turn into a heel. But for the last year, it's been kind of a mix between a babyface and heel. Because in San Diego, it's my home promotion, and they tend to keep their home promotion guys as babies. And then everywhere else, you're usually put as a heel because, nobody knows you. It's easier to hate you. So that's kind of how it's been for me. But, they're all kind of their own stories, their own universe. But I try to keep the same character, but have maybe different goals at every promotion. Because, sometimes you're not put in a position where you're going to go straight to the top. Sometimes you're going to put in a position where you're just trying to make a name for yourself at that promotion. And then sometimes you're put in a really high spot where you just put a title on right away. It just depends on what the promoter wants from you.
So, which is perfectly leading to my next question. You're a champ too in many of those different leagues. Kayfabe, I feel like it's something not a lot of, what it's called, not really deep into the like not really serious fans, like casual fans aren't aware of. And I feel like now with social media and everything, the lines are kind of blurred with the kayfabe stuff, except people like MJF killing it right now, keeping in character. How do you deal with that, being different characters, being the champ? Because all eyes are on you if people are tuned into those leagues, right?
Right. Yeah. I remember when I turned heel for the first time. I remember a lot of people at Level Up down in San Diego were asking me constantly, hey, I like this red guy. When are we going to see him down here? It was like always a tease of like the fan and the fans pay attention. It's people think, oh, no one watches my stuff, but really they're super into what you do. If you're constantly posting, they're like, okay, this guy's this now. Wait, are you heel now? Are you face? People get really into it. So my biggest thing with kayfabe is that it's in indies. I think it depends on your area. It also depends on like what your fan base is. If it's kind of everybody, then you kind of have to like now it's easier. Now it's easier for me because I'm fully heel. So now I just all my shit's like heel stuff. But before it was very difficult. It was like I got babyface stuff. Now I got heel stuff, but it was like the same page, same like account, and I was like, it's kind of hard, but I'll try to mix the two. So, because I remember when I would have like rivalries with guys, the guys would talk shit to me when I was babyface J2, and I'd be like, oh, I want to talk so bad as bad J2, but I can't because then people are gonna get confused. So, yeah, it's a tough thing when you have two different gimmicks.
And then when fans see you, do you keep it character or I
tried it once. I think the first time I debuted the red J2, I came out in the suit and everything, and I just ignored everybody, and people were like taking pictures of me, and it was cool. It was definitely like experience. I was just like, man, I don't know if I could keep it up though. Like
that's good content for people though, for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. I try. It's just hard because like at the end of the day, like in the indies, we need to make money as well. So it's hard to like not interact with people in some way. So I try to interact because I still have to sell merchandise and all that in my own way. So I try not to be super heel where I'm just like, fuck off, leave me alone. But like, I'll play the character and say things like, because the crowd will tell me, they'll say, hey, why'd you do that? Like, why'd you turn on the guy or something? And I'll be like, oh, he deserved it or something, things like that. So
if far down the line, when you're at the top of the sport, if you could pick, would you be a heel or a babyface?
Honestly, man, I'm having so much fun being a heel, so I would probably have to say heel.
Right.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I feel like that quote is true. You're only a hero for so long until you become the villain. And I feel like everyone gets into it wanting to be the baby face, obviously, but the more you're into it, the heel becomes fun, man.
Yeah, 100%.
Is that because there's always negative talk? Like, anything you do, if you do anything, you're going to get backlash. You're going to get people hating, right? Is being a heel fun because you get to kind of talk back to them? Or what is it about being a heel that's so much more fun?
I think what I like about it is the fact that when you're a babyface, you're kind of like one dimensional in the way of like, I have to make them like me, And if you're a heel, they can like you, but you don't have to give a shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
They could cheer you and be like, yeah, I love you. And you'd be like, shut your mouth. Things like that. So I like, cause a face is kind of like, oh, I can't not shake that kid's hand. Oh, I can't, tell a fan to shut up. Like, in a malicious way.
Right.
But a heel, you can have so much, there's unlimited things you can do. Cause you could also like people, you know?
Right.
Like I have fans that love me no matter what. I tell them they're stupid and they tell me they love me. And then I say, all right, I like you. So you can't hate everybody, but people definitely understand what you're trying to go for. So just depends.
I feel like Jungle Boy's trapped in that babyface prism right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of breaking out of it a little bit by being a little more malicious and, using the chairs now and stuff. But wow, I love Jungle Boy and I love Jurassic Express. Luchasaurus, the heel turn, that broke him out of the Jurassic Express. I feel like Jungle Boy right now is kind of trapped. But I don't know. I don't even wrestle. I'm just
yeah. It's tough, man. Like sometimes when you're only a babyface for the longest time, people put you in this category of like, he could never be a heel. There's no way. Like he's too loved. And that kind of happened to me when I first started. And I was starting to get really over when I won my first title at Level Up, a lot of people were telling me, oh, there's no way he could be a bad guy. And I'm talking about, the booking staff, the people that come up with the storylines. They were saying, oh, there's no way you could be a heel. You're too loved. You're too nice of a guy, because, that's just the first thought is like, no one could hate you.
Right.
And luckily for me, I had a promotion, MPW, where the promoter talked to me about, hey, I'm thinking about turning you heel, but I want you to have your own ideas on this one. And I had this idea that I had for like way down the line, because in my mind, I didn't think I was going to turn heel so soon. I thought it was going to happen in another year or two. Mm-hmm. So I just tried it out and it worked, so I think sometimes you just got to go for it, with your ideas to try to turn into that other side, whether it sounds silly or whatever it is, but I think people just need to try it.
Yeah. And thinking about it right now, my personal top wrestlers, they all can cross that boundary of being heel and face. Like Austin came in straight heel to where everybody loved him. Shawn Michaels was able to DX heel. I mean, I'm thinking about Bret Hart, who's kind of babyface, but towards the end, when he went Canadian, he kind of went heel. So yeah, I feel like Roman Reigns was kind of trapped into that babyface, trying to shove it down your throat, right? John Cena, but turned heel. Look what the fuck happened. It's crazy. Your character.
You brought up something I wanted to ask though. As far as creativity goes, like how are you? How much freedom is given to you, or is a lot of that left to the the writers or the creative department?
Luckily for me, I have a lot of freedom. I think most independent wrestlers get a lot of freedom. It just depends on your promotion, because there'll be promotions that kind of they'll kind of have something where they'll say, oh, well, we have this storyline where we want you to be this, and you'll have to kind of make it work. But then there's some opportunities where they'll ask you, hey, what kind of direction do you want to go? And so that's kind of what happened with me. But I would say that happens to most guys. They get like freedom of, creativity. Mm-hmm. So it's just up to them whether they want to fully go with it or if they just kind of need help with it, So it just depends on what kind of situation you're in, because not everybody has ideas in reality.
True.
Some guys come to be wrestlers and they're just like, oh, well, I'm just focused on the wrestling, but I don't really know where I want to go with the character. I just wanted to be a wrestler. But then promoters say, well, I kind of need you to have something. You can't just be a wrestler, So It just depends on your situation.
Gotcha. And is that pretty normal where a lot of wrestlers get that freedom, or do they kind of see like, okay, this guy, he's a pretty creative guy. We could leave, let him do his thing. This guy needs some help. So, maybe we can help him out, figure out what character.
I would say, guys, it's like a tryout almost. Like people get the freedom to do something, and then the promotion will either tell you, "Hey, this really worked. I really like it," or "You know what? I don't think this is going to work out. I think you should try something else." And I think it happens like that in WWE too. We see it all the time. You see these like wacky characters come in, and then you're just like, nobody likes it, and then next thing you know, they're gone for a couple months, and then they're repackaged as something else. So it happens. Yeah, it's the same thing in the indies.
It's like AEW, the people that are already in the ring with no music. It's like pro debut against Luchasaurus.
Yeah.
So you know what's about to happen.
It's a 30-second match.
This might be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask. Do you have more creative freedom as a champ?
In all honesty, not really. I feel, in all honesty, I feel like I have less.
Yeah.
I definitely have less because now that being a champion, you're the guy of that promotion. At the end of the day, you're their main attraction. So they have their storylines. Obviously, if you have your character, they'll make it work. They'll understand what your character is, and they'll try to make the stories work together. But most of the time, it's, hey, you're going to be in a feud with this guy, and this guy's going to partner up with you. Some guy I've never worked with before, and you kind of have to act like you guys are best friends, and so you definitely get those curveballs as champion. So I would say being champion is not as creatively free. So yeah,
that's interesting. That makes sense though, because if you try something and it's like, I guess in that mentality, they just take the belt off of you, right? If you do something off script that they don't like,
right? Exactly.
How often does that happen in the indies? People going off script, or is there a script that you guys go? Or is it a lot of improv stuff?
Most of it, I would say, most of it is scripted. Most promoters have a plan, so when they book somebody, they usually have an idea for what they want to do. But there are certain situations where things will happen, whether it's backstage stuff, injuries, personal things, or things like that. It could affect, whether a guy holds a title longer or shorter, because I've seen guys that won a title and then next show they lose it, and we don't know if that was because of the story or because of maybe some backstage drama or maybe because they weren't ready, they weren't ready for that role just yet. So things like that could happen.
Interesting.
Very cool.
Your characters, how many characters do you have currently? And what characters are they?
I only have 2 at the moment, but I'm only stuck with 1. So the first one is just the original J2, which is just the Playmaker J2, which is blue J2.
Right.
And then there's the red J2, which is the heel J2, which is inspired by The Weeknd, has the red outfit with the black and the helmet. But they're pretty much the same person, just one has more problems and the other one's more babyface. So that's kind of the difference with the characters. They're definitely extremely different. If you see the both of them, they're the same but extremely different.
I love it, man. It's like sort of like Mankind, like I've been through some shit, kind of deranged.
Yeah,
pretty dope, man.
100% that.
How did you come up with that heel character?
So during the pandemic, I was working. I had my shoot job, and I was cleaning floors. And so when you're cleaning floors, you have a lot of time. So I was always listening to music, and I was listening to The Weeknd's new album, After Hours, and I would listen to the entire album. And at first you're kind of like, oh, I'm just listening to it, and then you start like actually hearing the lyrics, and you kind of get inspired. And then I started watching his music videos, and I was really drawn to his red suit top and his all black and the nose thing. And I was like, this is such a cool look. And he kept doing it in all his videos. And I was like, this is kind of like his thing.
Yeah.
So that was like where I saw it from. And then I already had the helmet thing as my part of my original gimmick. And I always wanted to wear a helmet because I was really big on Daft Punk.
Mm-hmm.
I also liked Tron, so that's where I kind of drew the inspiration. I wanted to be more of a futuristic style wrestler, look wise.
So dope, bro. When the lights cut off, that shit was so dope.
Yeah.
Thank you. When my buddy told me about possibly turning heel, I had this idea where I was like, man, what if he wore the suit and I had the helmet, but it was red, because I was always wearing blue. Blue was always like my color. And, usually when you have blue, it's good guy, and then red would be bad guy. And I always had that idea of like, if I ever turn bad, I just wear red. So when I did the weekend thing, I said, what if I wore the red and wore the suit, and I came out with the Weeknd's music, and I made like these music video style videos for promos, because I didn't see a lot of guys in the indies do promos this way, so it was something I always wanted to do. So I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. So yeah.
Dude, I've been singing that song since I booked you for the podcast. my wife started singing it too, and now every time I hear it, we think of your character. So
everybody says that. So when they hear The Weeknd, whether it's at a restaurant, on their car, they're like, I feel like you're in the car with me, or you're watching me from the distance, and they'll usually message me when it's happening. So I'm glad that's happening, because he's supposed to be like a bad guy that you feel like is watching you all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Big fan. I've been watching the Young Rock show, and it's interesting seeing. I mean, also watching a bunch of biographies and stuff. It's interesting seeing a bunch of these top tier wrestlers try out certain characters before they get into the character they're known for. Before Stone Cold became Stone Cold, before The Rock became The Rock, there was Rocky Maivia, I forget, Stunning Steve Austin.
Stunning Steve Williams.
Hunter Helmsley before he was Triple H or The Game. For you, did you kind of go through different character experiments? Is experimentation a word? God damn, we've been saying that lately. Is that shit a fucking word?
I would say it was. I started with one, and it kind of evolved over time, because really J2's been the same character. It's just evolved into something better, because they've always said the best thing you can do is evolve. Because if you're just the same character forever, it's going to get stale at some point. So
for sure,
it's like one of those things that like builds over time. So I'm happy about it, because if I kept changing characters, I feel like I would kind of be in this weird bubble where I'd be like, oh, I'm trying to still find myself, But lately, I've been very, very happy and having more fun in wrestling, because I don't stress out about that, because I know exactly who J2 is and who the character is. So it makes my life easier as a wrestler. The only thing I stress out about now is if I'm going to make it on time to the show, So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, let me ask you then what's your vision of your character? Like this is, I mean, you're here now, and you probably think like, my character where I want it to be in X amount of time. Like, what do you envision? What do you see?
I definitely think I envision J2 being like the top indie guy by next year. I think just because of how many eyes I've gotten on in the character, even the big name, like the big companies have gotten a chance to kind of see it. So you never know. You could see me in a month from now in WWE. You never know, because there's been some people that have seen me in this character, and it's definitely gotten some, that's different, because it catches your eye. And that's the problem with a lot of the wrestling today, is that a lot of the young guys and even some of the older guys, they're so stuck up on the way of like, oh, I gotta be a pro wrestler, I gotta look good, I gotta do this, but none of them are really committing to these characters fully, and
Gotcha.
No one's really trying to be different. People are trying to be different, but I don't think they're actually putting their minds into like how can I really stand out? And so I like I said, I really do envision this character to be one of the top names in the independents, at least by I say next year. I think a lot of people will know this character by then.
I like that. Very cool. And I think you mentioned something very important, because I mean, watching a lot of wrestling documentaries and a lot of the, veterans, they would talk about the most important thing in wrestling entertainment is the character, the charisma, the how could you call it? That creative side. That's probably 80 to 90%. You could
get away more with that over like the move.
Yeah, over what you do in the ring. Correct. Right. So I mean, you saying that as well as somebody that's in the game, like that just backs it up even more. And plus, how you're saying you're getting eyes on you, that just means you're definitely investing a lot into the character, which is great, because now you're getting the eyes on you and you're getting that momentum of where you want to be with it. And that's awesome, man.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. So, I mean, we're going to show up to one of your events, bro. We're going to turn that shit up.
Yeah,
I'm excited. Moves these days, like you came from kind of the lucha style, right? How did you have your own move set, or you just kind of freestyle it in there?
So obviously, when I trained with B-Boy down in San Diego, Level Up, and very basic style. B-Boy is known for more indie style. For you guys that don't know, B-Boy, New Age Punisher, he's been in the business for 20 plus years. CZW Hall of Famer. Also wrestled in PWG. He was part of that group with Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, the Bucks. He's been one of the key players in the indies. And so he's my trainer, and he's the one that truly showed me like how to be good at my basics. And he's very big on creativity and trying to be different. So for me, when I first started, it was very more indie style wrestling, very quick pace, move after move. And then as I was getting better in wrestling, I started, like I said, watching more Japanese style, which was more slowing down, bigger hits, and I really got into that style. But my moveset wise, I evolved it. When I first started, I started doing more power stuff, and I started doing a little bit of lucha stuff. But now that I'm a lot bigger than I was when I first started, I changed my stuff to more power, more athletic stuff, as well as more character stuff. I've been dabbling more with wrestling, kind of bringing back more of that chain wrestling style, but not so much full chain, more of like body manipulation, kind of like Pete Dunne. If you guys ever watch Pete Dunne do it, where he pulls fingers and spreads them apart and steps on limbs.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
like
I
Bob Buckland.
Yep. Yeah, okay, exactly.
Okay. Cool.
But a couple of things I like to do is I do this power slam that's similar to Tour of the Islands, except I don't bring the guy back. I spin him as many times as I can.
Dude, what's that move called? That shit is dope.
I call it the PS2. Power Slam 2. But because when I started doing it, I was in a tag team with my partner Michael Hopkins. We were a video game stable. So I was player 2, he was player 1. So we would name our moves after video game stuff. So I would call that one the PS2 because I would spin them twice. And then if I span them more times, they would say PS4 or PS5. But most of my stuff, I like to put Playmaker in it. Like I do this knee where I bounce off the ropes, kind of like Spider-Man. And people call it the Spider-Man bounce. And then I hit the bicycle knee, and I like to call that the Playmaker knee. So that's one of my signature things I like to do. And then the big move I always like to go for is the Playmaker lariat. It's pretty much a half Nelson where I spin the guy around and I hit him with a big, strong lariat.
So dope.
Yeah, that was inspiration from Okada because I really liked his ripcord lariat, the Rainmaker. And that's also where I got the Playmaker from. Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Playmaker from, because they call him the Rainmaker. So if I ever wrestled him, I'd want it to be Playmaker versus Rainmaker. And just so you guys know, if I wrestle him, I want you guys to know, because everybody knows, I know that in my mind, I made it. So if I wrestle Okada at Wrestle Kingdom, I made it.
That's fucking
That's
dope.
all.
You know what?
Kind of reminds me of what happened this weekend.
Playmaker and Rainmaker, so that's cool as fuck.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Danny.
Yeah. No, I was saying that kind of reminds me of this past weekend with Kingston and what's the Japanese wrestler? I forgot his name.
He wrestled. Is one of the guys that wrestled the Pillars. I know his name too.
It starts with an A.
Akiyama.
Starts with an A.
Akiyama.
Yeah.
Akiyama. Yep, I watched him a lot as well.
Man,
very cool.
It's cool because the basics. I was watching your highlights and your matches. I watched the full match. I'm a fan, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the basics, you could tell a lot of stories just doing the basics. I'm really into movesets. I mean, you could ask Danny when we play 2K. When we play 2K, I download that shit. WWE 2K. If people are listening. I download that shit.
Hour
bro. We ain't playing until like 2 days later because I gotta edit the entrance. I gotta edit the moveset, and you know some of these wrestlers I haven't seen in a while. So we go on Peacock and I watch all the wrestling matches, and I'm like, all right, they do this, and then I input that and I make my own movesets. But I've noticed some of the Attitude Era wrestlers, which I'm a big fan of, most of their movesets are just fists and kicks and slaps, you know, and then they have maybe like 4 go-to wrestling moves, and maybe 2 out of those are a signature and a finisher. So, yeah, I mean, like, do you say you're at this point in your career, are you focusing more on the creative side, or are you still kind of trying to develop new moves in your movesets?
Nope, just the creative side. I don't worry about the moves anymore. I already have mine. My moves are very to me. You know, no one does what I do, and that's what separates me from the rest of the guys in SoCal. Is that I already have my stuff, so it's literally just plug and play. But I always think about the story. What can I do with my character and things like that.
Is there a Playmaker character in 2K? Because
there is, yeah.
Oh hell yeah!
I think like 2 or 3 guys made one of me that are actually pretty good.
What's the status? I gotta tag. What's the status on this one? We need a Playmaker created wrestler, man.
Yeah, let me see if I could find it. But yeah, this guy that makes them, I think his name's like Wizard of They. He makes like these really good created wrestlers, and he like literally made the entire Millennium Pro Wrestling roster, which is pretty crazy. Right? But
that's pretty cool.
I give him credit for the commitment. He actually did a pretty good job. So, you know, there's a lot of guys from Level Up. There's a lot of guys from MPW that are on there. But if you guys ever want to look it up, just look up Wizard of They.
Wizard of They.
Shout out Wizard of They. Wizard of They.
but are the movesets on point though?
No, unfortunately not.
I'll fix that, bro.
Yeah.
Wait for my upload.
Yeah, yep.
That's funny. That's awesome though. But dude, these created wrestler makers or creators, they make the game. They should get a portion of that 2K money, man. Like that game is unplayable without those guys. So shout out to all of them. There he is. Dude, hell yeah. The entrance attire too.
Yeah, that guy went in.
That's pretty cool.
Hey, fucking Playmaker might take the belt off Roman tonight, man.
Oh, shoot. The tribal chief is going down.
That's funny. So how long have you been wrestling, and like how long did it take for you to become champion? Do you think you became champion faster than the average champions? How is that journey becoming a champion?
So I'm wrestling currently for 5 years. So I got 5 years under my belt, and as far as championship, I didn't win my first belt for about 2 years. 2 years into my career. It's weird, man. I've seen guys have literally debuted and won a title like a week later or a month later, their first year. So I don't think there's really a when do guys win their first title, because you guys have seen in WWE, Santino Marella literally debuted and won a title. So,
dude, I thought Logan Paul was going to win it for a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't think there's really this is when a guy wins. But if we went traditionally, I feel like at least a year. I feel like if we're going with a promotion that really wants their guys to earn it, I would say a year before they actually win a title.
That's interesting.
One thing we've discussed with Jarrell is like, does each title pertain a significant meaning? Like, obviously the heavyweight,
right.
The world heavyweight you're the main guy, but do all the other little ones pertain like this guy's put in a lot of work, so he has this one. This guy's good at, I don't know, his character, so he's got this one. Do each one represent something?
Yeah, so usually the mid-card belt, it's used to help elevate a guy that they see potential in to maybe become champion. So a good example is, for example, Austin Theory. Putting the United States title on him shows that they have faith that he could be world champion one day. But as you guys know, that doesn't always mean the case, because sometimes there's guys that win the Intercontinental, but they never won the big one. But the mid-card is more used to help elevate guys to maybe win the big title later on. Because what they want to do is build those guys with the title to get more fans behind them and hopefully make the fans believe, oh, man, this guy could be the world champion.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Definitely. And as far as tag team and other kind of belts go, it just depends on the gimmick. Like tag team belts are more just to put titles on tag teams, and they're usually put on guys that are either big names that can't win the big title because they're in a tag, so they kind of give them some sort of reward, or new guys that kind of need something to help them get more of the crowd behind them. A lot of times the titles are used to kind of help get the crowd behind them, or to get more heat on them.
What do you think of the triple tag team title that AEW created?
We always talk about how many titles they have at AEW, and we always think it's so funny. Of like, man, there's another belt, But like I said, it's like a gimmick title. If you guys remember back in the day in WWE, remember how many titles they had? They had like a light heavyweight, they had a cruiserweight, they had the 24/7. So they've had so many. Yeah, so a title can be anything. It's just a matter of what you're trying to make the title about. So there's like hardcore titles. They're usually used for match purposes. So I feel like the mid card and the tag title and the main title are the most important, though, for any promotion.
How many belts do you have?
Right now, I only have one right now.
Okay,
but I've won a total of 5.
Do you have a favorite title out of all those 5?
The one I have right now. The EWF. The reason I like the one right now and not the first title I ever won was because the EWF title has 20 years of. It's a 20-year-old belt. It's old.
Oh shit! Okay.
It's got. Imagine if you won like the world heavyweight title, like the big gold, right? Mm-hmm. You know who's won that. You know who's held that, and it's the same thing with the EWF title. It's been held by guys that are in the AEW right now.
Oh shit! That's crazy.
Like Frankie Kazarian, he won this title that I have right now. Scorpio Sky, he also won the title I'm holding. So, and the list goes on, but like it's cool to be part of that list, because now when you guys ever go on like Cage Match, you'll see all the names on the EWF title, and now I'm on there. So it's cool to just be part of that list. So, that's definitely my favorite title, just because it has history.
Yeah,
history for sure.
That's awesome. So you got into wrestling watching WrestleMania 20, right?
Yep.
How long into becoming a fan did you decide, man, I'm going to do this?
I think when I got to middle school, I told myself I wanted to be a wrestler. Mm-hmm. And then once I graduated high school, like there was that time in high school where you kind of fall out from wrestling. Because I did wrestling in high school, but then I figured out it wasn't the same as WWE real soon. but I still enjoyed it, and I still did it. And then after high school, I tried to look into wrestling, like straight up after, but the school that I found was kind of far for me, so I didn't want to drive all the way there, so I kind of just put that on hold. But I ended up doing acting instead, so I did the whole acting thing after high school. So I got an agent in LA, drove up there back and forth, but little did I know that was actually helping my wrestling career.
Exactly.
Learning how to audition and stuff. So, and also being on camera, because I've been on TV shows, I've been in a couple movies and stuff. Nothing super big, but like decent enough to like get me experience. And then that's when the opportunity came when I was about 24, 23. My brother-in-law, he's the one that found out about not a tryout, but a school in San Diego, like literally down the street from my house. And he was like, hey, I really want to do this, but I'm scared because I've never done sports. So me and him both decided to go do the tryout together. And when we both went, we did the drills. It was pretty much like Hell Week. They just kill you, trying to make you quit. And my brother, he did good, but then he quit after. And then me, I stayed with it. Because the coach, B-Boy, talked to me and he said, hey, come back tomorrow. So I came back and I just stuck with it. So, and I wasn't even going to originally do it. I was just going to help my brother out and then leave like after the month so he can get comfortable doing it. But I ended up being the guy staying. So, yeah.
That's cool. I have a friend.
How life worked there.
I have a friend he's in the acting scene right now. He started out as a YouTuber prank like a YouTube prankster. And then he went to improv, and I went to an improv class with him, and just doing that, just, being fast with and witty and quick wit with, having something to say or having a response, like a conscious response to, is a skill that I feel like translates into anything you do in life. It's like it ups your social skills. More so, it ups your value as a wrestler, I feel. Because, like we said, you could probably get away with more creativity if you weren't such a good wrestler, opposed to being a good wrestler over not having that much creativity. Do you still do anything acting to compound or supplement your character, your creative side?
The only thing I've done lately more is the social media stuff, because I realized I did some research on what, someone was saying, look at what the top guys in your business are doing to where they got to their level. And I realized that nobody in wrestling's really doing social media except like the Young Bucks and like, Sammy Guevara.
Danhausen.
They did, Danhausen. They do the vlogs, but that's all they do. They don't do like TikTok. They don't do YouTube. They don't they do YouTube, but they don't do TikTok. They don't do like Instagram Live as much. And I was like, there's an opportunity there. So I started doing that stuff, and I realized that this is what's getting me more eyes on me. Because once I started posting constantly, bookers started hitting me up. People started following me more. And I've also gained confidence from talking, out of like kind of like now. Before I had to kind of think about what I had to say, but now I completely know what my character will say. So I'll just spit it out because I truly understand my character. So, that just came with practice and constant, like, making videos and having ideas and just doing it. So that's definitely my practice with social media.
Do you ever catch yourself being stuck in character, or are you able to consciously like, okay, I need to get out of J2. Like, okay, time to step into J2.
Luckily I don't tend to stay in the character. I feel like if I would, I'd probably go insane because it's kind of he's kind of out there. So I don't know. It's hard to.
Okay.
Yeah, he's completely different from who I am. So it's pretty easy to switch before the two. But like if I didn't interview with you guys as him, you would see the difference right away.
We gotta have him on the next one.
Yeah,
we gotta have him on.
That'd be fucking tight. Yeah.
There's a podcast for Level Up that we did on Spotify that I do it in full character, and you can automatically see the difference. There's a video on TikTok that I posted too with a little small clip. So if you guys ever have the chance, check it out on TikTok too. You'll see the voice is more, more lower and more creepy, and this kind of weird voice of like that's more how he talks compared to this, where I'm like, oh, hey guys. So yeah.
That's funny. Do you have a creative team around you that kind of help develop your character, spit ideas back and forth, get feedback on certain things?
So at first, no. At first, it was just me, and the reason was because I don't know if you guys know Vampiro,
okay.
WW.
Yeah,
he did a seminar with us at Level Up, and he said the best advice that anybody can ever hear, and I think this works for any aspect, and that is that when you have an idea, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody your ideas, because once you do, people start, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, I don't know. I think that's too much, because people will never understand what you're thinking in your head. So that's what I thought with what he said. So when I thought of this character, I didn't tell anybody. I completely kept it in my head. And once I got the opportunity, that's when I put it out there. And surprisingly, people loved it. So, but
that's crazy.
After I did the character, a couple people did hit me up. I had a buddy who was very into social media. He knows how to get more people to follow, and he was like, "Hey, you have something here." Like it's kind of it made me feel like one of those moments, when like their friends are like, "Oh, this can make us money." That's kind of moment. So right. I think he saw my character and was like, "Hey, man, I think you can really go far with this." So he started helping me out and telling me what to post, because I posted way more because of him. He was just like, people want to know about you, man. So post about your training. If you guys see, there's videos of me training people.
Right.
There's videos of me like doing music videos or vlogging. And I just started doing all that stuff. And it was more testing to see what was getting more views. And pretty much after that, I started figuring out, oh, this works. So.
That's awesome. And I read a lot about stoicism, and yeah, that's something that they say too. Just kind of keep it to yourself. And that's such profound advice, because it's your vision. Like, people aren't really going to understand your vision until it's full or fulfilled, So in the making or manifestation process of that, you don't want it to get tainted by, oh, you should do it this way. Oh, I don't really like that, because it'll affect it in a certain way. It won't really be your product. It'll be, whether you like it or not, be affected or manipulated by the criticism or the compliments that you get. So that's also a thing. Like, when you do get people like that, like, oh, just, kind of boosting you up, you kind of need to keep it balanced. I tell my wife this all the time. When I'm getting too many compliments, it's fucking kind of weird. I'll criticize myself to kind of bring me down, or if it goes both ways. If I'm getting criticized, I'll compliment myself to kind of be in the middle leveled balance, be level headed, kind of what I tell my friends and family all the time. So that's pretty cool that Vampiro said that. That's really profound advice.
For real.
Damn, Vampiro legend, man. Danny and I grew up watching WWF. Danny was more WCW. His mom wouldn't let him watch WWF. Rightfully so, though. I mean, like, my mom watched wrestling, so she kind of got me into that. So I feel like there wasn't really oh shit, like, this is crazy now. You can't watch this. You know what I mean? But as your mom should, Danny.
Yeah, only family friendly stuff was allowed. So WCW was. But regardless, I mean, with my family being Latino too, it was it was better for us because they had a lot of the lucha libre going on. So I mean, it caught our attention a little more, no doubt.
As far as your favorite era of wrestling, mine was obviously like the 97 Attitude Era. Like, I'm wearing this. Shawn Michaels was my guy. Danny was WCW. So every time we play 2K and just live it out, it's pretty much Shawn Michaels versus Sting, like fucking from the first to the fifth. and they're all for titles and shit.
much.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Do you have a certain era that like you label the golden era of wrestling for yourself?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely going to be the ruthless aggression era. The John Cena kind of when him and Batista won the titles. That's kind of the era that I really got into wrestling. So, because I did watch WrestleMania 20, but when I really started watching wrestling was when Batista and John Cena just won the titles at WrestleMania 21. So, that was like the whole era. Just John Cena dominating, Edge finally getting that push. Winning Money in the Bank, Batista just dominating SmackDown for the longest time. And also, I was also the hardest time because, I was really into, I really loved Eddie Guerrero at the time too. And I remember how hard his death really hit around that time because I was so like, I really loved him. And when that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, like it's crazy because like we don't know him, but we knew him.
Right.
And it really meant a lot to us when, he passed away. And I remember that day, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So, that was like the era for me. It was the ruthless aggression, I would say.
I think I tuned out in the mid phase of the ruthless aggression. I was there for the Brock Lesnar era when he first started. That was kind of like the beginning of ruthless aggression, right? And then
it was kind of
Randy Orton kind of took over, and then John Cena.
Yep,
it's cool. What do you think about? I mean, it's crazy. I didn't even know that they were labeled, but there was a PG era too, right?
Yeah, that's kind of when I stopped watching.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I completely tuned out around that time.
And right now, we mentioned on a previous podcast, AEW. Their heat right now, I feel like, is kind of better, hotter than WWE. But WWE has that. It's almost like Disney, It's like what you're gonna get. No disrespect. I'm a big AEW fan. The botches are probably more so in AEW than they are in WWE.
Well, I know that AEW doesn't have a developmental program. So that's one of their big issues is they don't have a like NXT brand. So I think they're trying to do that with Ring of Honor. So maybe that might help them. But the big thing was with them is they don't train talent, they sign talent. That's why I think a lot of the guys in AEW are very like unfinished. That's kind of why you see more botches because they don't have the same amount of training that the guys at WWE have. Like they have literally the best trainers in the world at the best facility. So that's why these guys are, that's why the product when it comes to WWE, that's why these guys that they push out, at the end of the day, like sure, maybe they're not as interesting move wise, but their moves are clean and crisp, because that's all they do. So, that's the big difference between the two companies. And I think until Tony Khan either makes a developmental program or does what WWE used to do back in the day and maybe work with schools, specific schools like WWE used to do with OVW. I think if they do the same thing now and have a partnership with schools and bring in students from those schools into their promotion, that might be the best way to do it. So their guys are not just, wrestlers they pick up out of nowhere. These guys are trained wrestlers.
Wow, that's interesting. I never knew that.
That's interesting. That
makes so much sense, because NXT. There's that. I watched that. What's that movie with It's about it's Soraya now, but it used to be Paige, right? That movie.
Yeah. Fighting with my family.
Yeah, great movie. Love that movie. That movie made me tear up, man. Love that movie. But it seems now that you mention that, it seems that AEW signs older talent and kind of puts it on them to develop the younger talent. That's kind of what Bryan Danielson is doing right there. I hate how he's almost like a jobber now in AEW. It's time to put the belt on him,
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a current problem, not just in wrestling, but in the entertainment business that we have, is that a lot of us are so used to the names that we grew up with that we're more attached to like those names than we are with the new ones, because it's hard to kind of build these new stars because we have still so many of the old ones around. So that's why it's been tough for us to kind of move on from the old stars. So in my opinion, I feel like once Brian, once Moxley, they all leave, that's when you can kind of start, okay, I'm starting to like this guy who I didn't watch as much. But at the same time, there's guys like MJF that, they committed to their character. And I think he's so over because he truly knows his character. And that's the big thing that I think a lot of guys in AEW are missing at the moment. They're just not committed to their characters. They're more committed to just getting a reaction from a crowd through their moves, which is not going to be good for them in the long run because they're only going to be liked for their moves. And at the end of the day, WWE had the same problem back in the day with like the cruiserweights. They were guys that were only liked because of their moves, and I'm sure you guys could think of a few that you definitely know the names, but you weren't like, oh, this guy's not a main event guy but they could do amazing stuff. One guy that comes to mind is like Billy Kidman. Billy Kidman
for sure.
He was fucking amazing, and sure, he won the cruiserweight, but that was kind of it,
Right.
That was kind of it. And I know back then it was different because, they liked bigger guys back then more. So,
yeah.
Who knows? Maybe he would have been more successful in today's wrestling. But that's just what I've noticed, really, with wrestling today.
Yeah, that's true. Huh. That's interesting.
Gives an insight because that's stuff that we don't understand as fans, but hearing it now, like, whoa, mind blowing.
And so there's a bunch of fucking crazy matches in wrestling, right? There's table match. What do you guys think? What's the most ridiculous match? There's a jail cell match, casket match, inferno match, with the flames.
Punjabi match.
Bras and panties match.
Honestly, man, I think I might get hate for this, but I think the most ridiculous match is the death match. I think it's so dumb.
What's that one?
I don't know if you guys seen death matches. It's not very common in WWE. It's more common in the indies. It's like a hardcore match, but even worse. You actually think that they're gonna kill each other, type of match. Like
what the heck?
With light tubes and they stab each other sometimes.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever.
I've seen
so it's like there's hardcore and then there's death.
I've seen like backyard wrestling where they like power bomb someone onto like poles of lights.
Yeah, it's pretty much that. It's pretty much that. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you guys ever watch GCW is pretty much a big culprit for this. They do a lot of these kind of matches. One of my buddies who wrestles, he does these matches religiously almost every week, and I always tell him, "You're crazy."
God, dude.
But I'm not a fan of it. I think if they're going to do these matches, kind of like a hardcore match, you want to kind of save it for a big moment. But if you're doing all the time, it's like, and then people aren't actually dying. So,
Yeah.
At least,
I could say though, watching wrestling, seeing those match constantly, it was, I mean, as a kid, it was kind of cool, but now it's like, if I were to see a hardcore match every week, or let's say even a death match, nah, man, like give me something better. Give me something more.
Yeah. It's becoming oversaturated. It's becoming like a normal thing now. So, which I hate because back then it was a treat to have a hardcore match,
Right.
Same thing with like a cell, whenever we'd have those like big matches, we were excited because we're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait till Hell in the Cell, because you were like, I've been waiting for this match all year. Same thing with Royal Rumble. You're excited about a Royal Rumble because it's like, oh my God, Royal Rumble, and it's the same thing. But I feel like nowadays, some of these promotions are so much worried about making a quick buck or, just getting that big main event that they think, we can only make this main event with this kind of money because we have a certain niche audience.
Yeah,
because wrestling is so oversaturated now with like, we got Japanese wrestling, we got American wrestling, we got lucha libre, we got hardcore wrestling, we got women's wrestling. So you kind of have everything now.
Mm-hmm.
As before, it was all on one show, right? Like you were saying, but I understand there's a want from the people, so these companies are trying to feed them, with what they want, because there is a hardcore fan base that wants these death matches at the end of the day.
Okay, understood then.
That's nuts. I would say my dumbest match would be the I Quit match. Like
I quit.
Like I get it's more. I mean, the Roman Reigns did it the best.
Yeah.
With the Usos.
Yeah.
That was storytelling done to a T. As far as like 5-star I Quit matches, that was one of them. But the Rock one was pretty funny too when he had the recording go, I quit.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. But I feel like there's other ways to do dramatic storytelling than an I Quit match. I feel like only certain personal beefs should be an I Quit match. That'd be crazy.
Well, if you notice, they don't really do them a lot, so they're probably on your side where they don't think they're very successful. So,
right. What about yours, Danny? You got a favorite or least favorite crazy match?
Least favorite crazy match? No, I mean, I think I'm with J2 on the hard. Well, too many hardcore matches. Nah, not for me. Like I'll watch one here and there, but. Nah, like you said, it's just saturated and no. But I mean, I enjoy all kinds of matches, honestly. And if it's creative, like okay, do it. And then if it's stupid, then I'll be like, nah. I hope they don't do that again.
Have you wrestled in any of those crazy match types, or what kind of match types have you wrestled in?
I've done a ladder match.
Oh damn!
Oh,
that was
cool.
That was probably my favorite match, and I would love for you guys to check it out. This is one of my most proudest matches I've had.
Mm-hmm.
It was at Level Up Pro Wrestling. I'll send you guys the link on the show, but it was the main event, and it was my first ladder match ever with my partner, who was his name's Cam August, young up and coming wrestler from Level Up, extremely talented. Keep your eye on him, but he tore it up with me. We killed it, and people said that was probably one of the best matches they've ever seen. So it means a lot to hear that. And guess what, guys? We didn't do a lot. We didn't do a lot, but it was interesting and fun. That was one. I'd done a tables match before. I did it with Damien Says. He's a legend from TJ. He wrestled in WCW. He was part of the Latino World Order. And I think NWO also.
Painted face, right?
Yeah, with the sixes.
Yeah.
I wrestled him, and I was terrified. I thought he was going to cut me open.
Is he that crazy or what?
No. He's like your uncle or your dad. He's like, oh, mijo, te cuido. Oh, thank God. I was like, oh, thank God.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool.
I've done that. I did a hardcore match up in MPW. That was pretty cool. I threw my opponent through a table with a razor's edge.
Oh shit!
It's pretty dope. From the ring to the outside. So that was pretty dope.
That's dope.
Yeah. So I've done that, and that's pretty much it. I think as far as like the crazy stuff, I haven't done anything else. But there's always more matches to come. So I always get surprised. I still have yet to do a cage match, and I think something tells me that's coming in December. I don't know. We'll see.
We might be there, man.
Probably have to go to that one. Yeah.
Probably have to go to that one for sure. Man, I was going to ask, I don't know if you know much about this, but do you know if AEW has a creative director, or do they? I heard that they let their wrestlers just kind of have creative freedom with their characters.
I don't think they. I'm sure they do. I mean, it'd be kind of foolish of them not to have one. But I do think there's a little more freedom with them than WWE. I think WWE is more of a controlled space where they're more like, hey, we already – because WWE has writers and stuff. I don't think AEW does that. So I think there's definitely someone wrestling wise, helping with all that stuff. So I wouldn't know for sure, but that's what I'm assuming.
Oh, okay. It's interesting. Yeah, because we had a conversation, Danny and I. We felt like WWE just knows how to sell the drama, and AEW has some drama that has a lot of potential, but it blows off after a week or two, you know? And it's like, oh man, they should have kept going with that for a little bit more, milk it a little bit, 2 pay-per-views. But I was thinking, we were discussing, it might be because the wrestlers have too much creative freedom to where they're like, oh, I want to do this now. Oh, let's try this next week. So with that being said, do you think it's more beneficial to have a WWE or a group of people that can work together and come up with a collective creative idea, opposed to one person saying, nah, let's run with this storyline? You know what I mean?
I think both is good, but in my opinion, I feel like if the AEW guys were making more choices, I think we would see a lot more guys getting fired in reality, because you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they would get a lot.
Yeah,
they would get a lot of blame. So I definitely don't think they're the ones that are coming up with everything, because if they were, they'd be gone like the week after. But I think at the end of the day, you do need somebody to kind of have ideas, because at the end of the day, these guys are wrestlers. Like, sure, they're thinking about their characters, but if you give the wrestlers a little bit too much creative freedom, I think they get a little carried away when it comes to storylines. Like, it's a matter of plug and play. As long as you know what your character does and what they can do, and then they present you the idea, that's when you can be like, okay, I can do that, but I don't think he would do that because the character doesn't do that. But if they at least have the idea. So I definitely think there should be more of a person that just is a writer. So more of the WWE style.
Makes sense.
That's crazy. And wrestling, you learn this now, getting older and like watching these documentaries about the wrestlers later after the glory days. You know, you can't be doing all that Jeff Hardy shit or Darby Allin shit week after week after week. You got to preserve the body, right? 100%. So that's where what you're doing, which is wise, because being already hot, up and coming, you know what I mean? Your moveset, you have your spots where you pull off the PS2, you know. Is it the Playmaker slam now?
It's still PS2. I still like to throw a little callback, but
I think
Playmaker knee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you have like a recovery aspect or recovery? Do you have like a recovery method or regime that you have going on for you? And is it after every match, or is it only after you've taken a crazy bump on certain matches? What's your routine like?
I would say so. I literally train almost every day. I try to take 2 days off the week. So, but it's pretty tough when you wrestle on Saturdays and Sundays constantly, because I've been wrestling every weekend for the last year, because I quit my job and did this fully. So right. I've literally been wrestling every week this entire year. And it's the beginning of it definitely took its toll on me, because I was definitely feeling more of my body. But once I changed up my gimmick, I started realizing that I started hurting way less because I started doing less. So my recovery is the same. I still like to rest like maybe one day or 2 days out of the week. I make sure to eat, sleep. I try to sleep. That's what really helps me, is sleeping. So I try not to sleep so late. As well as I do cryotherapy. That helps me a lot sometimes. As well as just stretching, massage, like with the medicine ball, as well as I also like using a softball, and I kind of push it on my thigh, and I'll use it kind of like a roller. So that's kind of what helps me recover as well.
How much into your training do you? Because I like to work out. How much into your training do you go to the gym and do like weight training?
I usually go 3 days a week for sure. That's the guarantee. But I try to at least go 4 days a week of weight training. But if I had to say how many times I train, I probably train 5 days out of the week, and it's at least 2 a days most of the time.
Damn.
Wow. So you're training like you're physically being active day in and day out.
Yeah. 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 I train a lot.
Wow.
I've yet to try cryotherapy as a recovery method. How's that like? When I mean, like comparing, I mean, how long have you been doing it, and how is the experience from the first week you've done it to now doing it as a thing that's part of your routine?
I started it maybe last year, and I didn't do it like constantly. I just did it like once or twice, and then I got an injury in a match where I fell on concrete on my hip. And I also landed on my wrist because I went for a dive, and the guy that was going to catch me, he didn't catch me. He like went backwards, so I just side planted, and my hip was like really badly bruised. So I went to cryotherapy, and that really helped me heal quicker.
Wow.
And my wrist as well, because my wrist was like really fucked up. So, and after that, I was like, yeah, I ain't doing dives anymore. So, but I don't do it like all the time. I mostly only do it if my body starts hurting. And lately, for some reason, I haven't been hurting as much just because I also changed my routine of working out. I used to do a lot of heavy lifting, and I switched my workout routine to more plyometrics, and also doing like less weight but more reps. Because when I was doing heavy, my shoulders would start hurting. Also, my back would hurt more. I have a lot of lower back pain, like back in the day. So doing less weight really helped me not feel as hurt all the time. So that's what's been helping me the most.
Man, that's crazy. And would you say your body's kind of adept to wrestling every week now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely, so when I didn't wrestle as constantly, my body was hurting a lot, but now that I wrestle literally every week and I train almost every day, it's almost like my body's just like, oh, it's just another day,
Yeah.
But, but I also try not to be lazy, because a lot of wrestlers will train every day, but they're scared of bumping. But I try not to do that, because if I don't bump, then the bumps will hurt more when I do wrestle, because you're doing them less.
I see.
Yeah, because if you keep
training,
bumping,
you mean
like less callous kind of to the bump, right?
When you fall on the mat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when wrestlers throw themselves on the mat so they can,
brace kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
It still hurts. It's just that you train your back to like take it, so it hurts less.
Gotcha. Is it also another way to practice, your fall, so you could fall adequately or the right way?
Yeah. So it also you teach your body to protect itself, because naturally, if you fall backwards, you're going to put your hands out to like brace yourself like this.
Right.
And that's how people break their wrists. But in this case, you're evenly distributing the weight. So that's what's going to save you from. Sure, it's going to hurt like a bitch, but you know what? Boom! You're going to be like, oh, I'm still alive though. So.
Yeah, you don't have a cracked skull.
It's like not one point of impact. Like you said, you distribute the point of impact.
Yeah.
So wrestling, like, in a year, do you wrestle the whole year? Do you have seasons? Are there like vacations, breaks?
All year. My only vacation is like holidays. Like this week, Thanksgiving's on Thursday, but I'm wrestling the next day. So, it never ends. It's just like back in the day. It's just like how you hear about WWE. Wrestling has no seasons. So I think the only time they ever did was during the pandemic, But,
true.
But yeah, it's never ending, because at the end of the day, like, this is our job. If I take time off, there's no pay, so I have to wrestle every week to make some money.
That's true. Do you have a dream promotion of wrestling under?
Yeah, so my dream promotion is either Pro Wrestling Noah, which is in Japan, also All Japan Pro Wrestling, just because those are the two promotions that Misawa started at. That's where he got his name, and Noah is kind of more important to me because he started Noah. He was the original starter of that promotion. And just so you guys know, I actually had a tryout for them last week on Thursday.
What?
Let's do it, man. Let's fucking do it.
No, I already did it, but
no, I mean, like, let's get it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get picked, but it doesn't matter because the guy that I wrestled with, he got picked. So they were if the guy that got picked with me, you see what I'm saying? So me and him had a good match. So he got picked, and then I was in it. Means more, that means they had their eye on me. And there was also a WWE scout there.
That's interesting. People don't really like you said, the casuals don't really know. Like, if the winner is not always the wrestler who's putting in the work, he's not really the person who painted the picture. You know what I mean? So like the person taking the bumps might add to the like Darby Allin is. You know what I mean? That guy takes crazy bumps to storytelling of him, selling like a back injury, but still fucking going for the coffin drop from the top to a bunch of tables and shit.
Yeah. And
then he might fucking lose. You know what I mean? It's crazy that the casuals might not notice that, but the people who really know wrestling, like that I see what you're saying, that it kind of puts an asterisk by your name of, hey, maybe if this guy doesn't end up being it, maybe it was because of Matt that it looked good at the time, you know what I mean? So that's crazy.
But that just, I would say that also puts a little seed in your brain, in your head, that way for next time moving forward, I don't know, you're just going to go ham, man. You're just going to, you're going to go hard, So that's dope, man.
That's cool. So I wanted to ask, the wrestling Mount Rushmore. Who would you put in your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
So it'd be Misawa. So Mitsuharu Misawa. I hope you guys do check him out. I really do want you guys to.
I'll check everything out. Yeah, after this for sure.
So Mitsuharu Misawa. The second one would have to be The Undertaker. He's the guy that made me want to do this. My third is Bret Hart.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Bret Hart is definitely the guy that I really grew into liking when I really got into wrestling as a kid. And then the final one would have to be Okada from Japan, from New Japan. He's definitely one of the guys that I'm just like, I think he's, in my opinion, best in the world.
Wow. Okay.
It's crazy because I didn't even really know much about Kenny Omega until I dove into the Japanese wrestling scene. They have a fucking huge scene over there in Japan, huh?
They do.
Have you ever wrestled over there or have plans of?
No, that's the dream. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It might be hopefully happening. So I'm trying to figure something out to get over there. And you never know. Like I said, the tryout that I did, that could also lead to something. We're just waiting because we did a tryout in front of a lot of promoters. So you never know. One of them might call me and say, hey, we need you to fly to Japan. So we just have to see. So definitely.
Hell yeah. Danny, who's your Mount Rushmore? Wardlow.
Nah. For sure Sting, because that's my boy from way back in the day. And watching WCW. You know what? I didn't think about this. So come back to me. Go for it, Jarrell.
I'm going to go with Shawn Michaels. You got to go with Undertaker because, man, that character standed the test of time. Let's go Stone Cold. And it's obvious my what kind of wrestling I watch.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go with, it's a tie between The Rock and Bret Hart. But it's hard not to put Mankind over there too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just put a bunch more faces on the foot.
There you go.
That's funny, man.
All right. I got it. I took some time. So obviously Sting, because again, that's my guy. Having watched Lucha Libre, and you mentioned him, Rey Mysterio, for me, because as a kid, man, it was dope to see him flying around all the time. Let's see. This one's going to be a little different, but I really, really like to get the guy, Booker T. You know what? Just his character, he'd come out, give so much energy, that axe kick with the spinner Rooney and everything. I got excited every time I'd see that. And you know what? I'll go with a different promotion on this one, The Rock. Because when the invasion was happening, that's when I kind of got to see more of The Rock. And man, that energy, like how he would describe himself, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment. So true, man, because the way that camera angled out and you see the flashes, that was electrifying.
Hell yeah. And I feel like he made it more improv, you know. I heard this story that when he was up and coming, like Nation of Domination, The Rock, and him and Triple H were going at it, and Triple H was with DX, The Rock would complain to Vince McMahon because Triple H and Shawn Michaels would go off script, you know, and start their shit, and then the audience would love it. And when you have a script, like The Rock would be like, what the fuck, man, you know? And he'd go to Vince, and the DX stuff was working at the time, so Vince would say his shit, and it would just keep happening. And I think from what I read and what I saw, that's when The Rock was like, all right, I'm gonna do it back to him, you know? And man, did that really work for him over Triple H. So yeah, a bunch of people's at least like best wrestler currently right now. It's all over the place. I'm a newly Roman Reigns fan, but it's hard not to pick MJF right now. MJF is single-handedly, he's transcended WWE and AEW. Like you hear MJF and WWE, and AEW talks about, he doesn't even care about Tony Khan, and he doesn't even care about AEW. When he won the title, that fucking scrum he had at the end, when he was like, you guys bought the thing I bought with this mark? Yeah. It's so crazy. So right now, do you guys think who do you think should be in the spotlight as far as the top wrestler right now? Who has the balance of the creative side but also the wrestling side? Would you say MJF too right now?
I feel like I have to pick Roman just because he has the more experience at the end of the day. Like MJF is very talented. He's very good, but he's still young.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day. And, I think when it comes down to who's probably the smarter one, it's probably Roman, you know. But I definitely think MJF is going to be a force to be reckoned with for many years to come. I'm not sure if this is my personal opinion, you know. I don't know if he's the guy though. Like, sure, he's extremely talented, but I don't know if he's the guy just because, you know, I feel like when we saw Hogan, when we saw Cena, when we saw Austin, there's something special about them. And don't get me wrong, MJF does have something special about him, but it's not the same. And I remember hearing something from Edge one day, and I can't remember what it was. It was like Edge was talking about, you know, there's these guys that are really good, and then there's these guys above them that are their own thing. And I think that was one of those things. And it's really hard because I think in this day and age, it's really hard to find that guy that really separates from the rest. Because think about it, we have too many guys right now, too many guys where everybody's fighting for that spot of best in the world, you know, and everyone's fighting to be the best. But at the end of the day, you know, I think it comes down to none of them should be even saying they're the best. I think it naturally has to happen, you know, and naturally I feel the fans have to pick that they're the best. So I still think we're in that rut of finding the guy. So I don't know. I think we'll see. We'll find out who in a couple of years maybe, but you know, MJ's just won it, so we'll see where he takes it from here.
Yeah, you know what? It wasn't until this previous Dynamite, or was it the Rampage where he came out to save Moxley, where I was like, man,
Yeah.
it's almost like the same, like you already know what you're going to get, you know? And it's one of those things, like, you don't know if the guy is the guy until the spotlight and the belt is on him, right? Do you think, as a champ, being multiple champs, do you think that put more pressure on you, or did that activate the inner you a little more? You know, some people use that to motivate them a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it definitely motivated me extremely, because once I won my first title, I started working harder. I started really like, okay, I'm the top of the food chain right now. I have to be at this level. You know, I have to be ready. You know, because in my mind, the problem is that if Roman Reigns came to my school and said, "Oh, you and me are going to wrestle," you know, I can't be, "Oh my God, Roman Reigns." I got to be, "Okay, let's do it." You know, that's the mentality I have to have.
Right.
I can't freeze.
Yeah.
You know, if Undertaker said, "Let's go, kid," I'm going to be like, "Let's go." You know, so that's the mentality you have to have now. And you know, as a wrestler, I can't be a fan anymore. You know, I'm one of them, and you have to show, right? You know, you have to show them that. You have to show them that you're one of them. So that's kind of the mentality that I think separates a lot of independent wrestlers from the real wrestlers.
That's awesome. And people don't really go through that until they take that leap of faith to be like, you know what, I'm going to go for my dreams right now. I'm going to go get it. And that's when kind of your idols turn into your rivals. So it's not even really the same, you know? When did that kind of moment happen for you where it's like, all right, these guys are competition now, or not competition, but my peers instead of the people I look up to?
Probably very recently.
Hell yeah.
Very recently. Just because lately I've been having matches where I don't even worry about it anymore. So that's a new feeling for me. And not trying to say I'm better than people. It's just more of like, I feel like I'm at a certain level now. So I just need to have those matches with those people that I know I can have a match with.
You're feeling your momentum, right?
Yes.
And it's also safety, right? There's some wrestlers that probably are kind of new that I don't really feel safe. And you kind of, being more of a veteran, you kind of have the luxury now of being like, no, I don't want to wrestle with them. Would you say that too?
Well, I think the problem is that a lot of the guys want to wrestle the same style as other guys. You know, if people wrestle Daniel Bryan, they're going to say, "Oh, well, I need to chain wrestle Daniel Bryan," but they don't realize that he's one of the best in the world. Why would you chain wrestle him? Unless you're one of the best in the world chain wrestlers, and that makes sense. But it's the same goes for like power guys. Why would a smaller dude try to outpower a power guy, right?
Right.
And that's the whole thing with me. If I wrestled Brock Lesnar, you know, I'm not going to try to wrestle his style. I'm going to try to wrestle my style. I'm still going to try to hit him as hard as I can. I'm still going to try to hit him with the PS2, you know, because that's what I do. And that's the thing. Like, a lot of guys are trying to compete with each other in that way of like, I can do just as much as he can.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's about, this is what I can do, and I know what you can do. Let's make it work. Mm-hmm. So if I wrestle Ricochet, I ain't gonna do his little spot stuff because I can't do that. He can do it to me, but I'm gonna do my power stuff to him. I'm also gonna hit him as hard as I can because that's what I do, and I'm gonna dance because that's what J2 does. You know. So sure. That's the big difference in wrestling today. I think is that these guys are just trying to compete. They're fighting for a spot, but at the end of the day, they shouldn't be competing. They should just, their biggest competition is themselves. They should be being the best version of who they are and making it work.
Right. And that shows, right? Like that shows in your wrestling, that shows in your walkout. And just, I mean, when you cut promos, I don't know how often they cut promos in indies,
too,
but yeah, that definitely shows in the promos. So how often does that happen in indies? Are indies more promo based than they are wrestling? Because like you said, I feel like the beneficial thing about you using social media is not only does it drive attention towards you, it brings attention towards these wrestling promotions as well, right? So as a promoter, it'd be like, oh damn, like I love what J2 is doing. So how does that kind of how does that work?
Well, most indie promotions don't really. They ask you for promos, but it's not like WWE where they put too much thought into it. Mm-hmm. I think it's more just, hey, promote the show. You know, we need people to come buy tickets, and that's kind of it. But people don't. They're not trying to promote the show in a way of like promoting themselves and the show at the same time. So that's why I think a lot of guys don't get signed from the indies. It's because they're so good wrestlers, but then when they get a tryout at WWE, you know, they don't get picked up because they can't cut a promo. They can't. They can't explain their character to the camera. It's like, sure, they can wrestle great, but guess what? NXT has a bunch of guys that can do the same thing they can do.
Right.
You know, why do you think they hire athletes? Because they can teach them how to wrestle. And at the end of the day, all these guys that are in the indies are just going to reteach them how to wrestle. So that's not the problem. What you can't teach is how to talk on a camera, how to have charisma. That comes out naturally, you know. I think William Regal said it. He's like, what they're looking for is a guy that walks into a room and all the attention is on them, you know?
Right.
So that's what you have to have. It all comes down to confidence. You know, confidence is the biggest thing in wrestling you have to have. And, you know, a lot of guys don't have confidence. They have a lot of anxiety issues. I've seen guys that before their matches, they're pacing because they want to remember so many of their spots, and they're worried about messing up. And, you know, it's like, just relax, you know, you're going to be fine. But I think that's the biggest issue with wrestling today is like too many people just have so much anxiety, you know? Mm-hmm. And, you know, I used to have the same issue, but then once I figured out who I was and I found this character that I'm extremely comfortable doing, made my job super easy. And I think that's what it is. Wrestling is just about finding yourself. Look at The Rock, look at John Cena. Right. They found themselves. Exactly. They found the character and they committed. They said, this is who I am. You know, so that's the reason those guys are stars. And,
man,
yeah.
It's crazy because, you know, people say wrestling is fake, this and that. That's the number one flack of it. But I tell people all the time, wrestling is more real than you know, man. And a lot of these real things that you know are trying to be like wrestling. You know what I mean? So being a person who grew up in that, and then kind of, like you said, when we all had that phase where we kind of tuned out of it for a little bit. There are a lot of people who looked at wrestling like it was really bizarre, but you were like, no, I it's not really that bizarre. You know what I mean? Like we grew up in it. So that's crazy. That's very interesting. Would you say you draw your confidence from just how perfect your character is, or your character brings you confidence, or is it your experience, your upbringing, like something someone told you?
I think my confidence comes from like several things, but probably the biggest things that I think help my confidence is my goals. Like I know what I want. You know, when you do something, even though you're in wrestling, there's a lot of people that don't know what they want. And for me, I know what my goals are. I want to go to Japan. I want to get signed. So when you have that goal, and this goes for anything in life, if you have that goal and then the rest is easy. You know how to get there. You gotta just do the things to get there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I've been doing this for 5 years. That to many wrestlers, that's not a long time. You know, to many wrestlers, that's like, oh, you're still young, you're still new in this business, you haven't done 10 years, which is fine. That doesn't matter. But I've been doing this long enough where I feel like I know what I can do, and I stuck with it. So. My confidence in my moves, the confidence in my character, that's another thing that helps me. And then I think the last thing is just the things that I do work. You know, when I go out there, it works. You know, if I try to be a bad guy, people boo me. I get reactions. If I wasn't getting reactions, I think I would get worried. But even if I didn't get a reaction, it doesn't matter because, you know, different things work with different crowds. So it's trial and error. So that's another thing. I'm not afraid of messing up.
There you go.
Know, I'm willing. I'm willing to mess up.
Yeah.
Because I've done things in my matches where I'm just like, maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. And if it doesn't work, I don't freak out and say, "Oh no, my world is done," and I don't get mad after the match and go, "Man, that was your fault or that was my fault." I don't care, because that's not the important part. The important part is whether people had fun, whether they got their money's worth. So that's another thing these guys need to be willing to do, is not mess up. Because once they mess up, they're just like, "Oh, my world is over." So that's definitely what's helped me tremendously with my confidence.
Do you have a mentor or like a book that you've read that kind of, because like you said, you had the anxiety previously, right? And then it wasn't up until somewhere down the line you had developed the confidence to combat that anxiety. Like, did you dive deep inside of a rabbit hole to get some like mental training, or how did that happen for you?
So I think when I had my job, before I quit, I was listening to a lot of motivational speaking videos, because it's one of those things where you felt stuck. I felt super stuck at my job. I hated what I was doing. I had a dream, but I felt like I wasn't going anywhere. And when I would listen to these motivational videos about falling down, getting back up, or keep trying, don't give up, silence the haters type of stuff, it really motivated me. And the biggest one that got me was the family. Family is the most important thing to me. I have a son and I have a wife, and I want to make sure that I can provide for them. And but my son is really the biggest motivation, because I want my son to grow up saying, "Oh my gosh, my dad did what he wanted, and that means I can do what I want." So those are the things that really pushed me. So a lot of it was really myself, a lot of self, motivation, because I'm not trying to say no one motivated me. It's just that wrestling's a tough business, because it's a lot of competition, in a way of like, nobody wants you to be better than them. Everyone wants to be better than everyone else. It's but what sucks about it is that that's not what wrestling is. Wrestling is a cooperation. It's a teamwork type of sport. You guys already know, these two guys are working together at the end of the day. Nobody that's made it on their own. They had these great matches with another person. So that's what I don't understand. Right. The other guy that really motivates me is Cristiano Ronaldo. His work ethic. He's very disciplined. He's very, put in the work, but I also like the fact that he's confident. I don't think I'd be as confident as him in the way of saying I'm the best and because everybody says that, everyone says I'm the best, but that's not the point. The point is that you're good at what you do. That's what makes me special from the rest, is that what I do, no one else is going to be able to do. And I have to be confident in that.
That's crazy. I was thinking it'd be funny if in wrestling, when someone says they're the best, Bret Hart's music just comes on. What'd you say?
Yeah, I know.
That'd be awesome. So it's funny. It's funny. My friend, he's trying to be a pro basketball player in the Philippines, and basketball is like a team sport, but there's that everybody's trying to make it. So instead of making the right play, making the extra pass, someone's just going to jack a shot or go for something on their own, because they're trying to get attention for themselves, which is understandable. How do you deal with that in wrestling? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of that too, right? With big events, not even big events. Let's say there's more people in the audience than they initially assume there would be. Do you guys just kind of talk midway, or hey man, calm down, or do you just go with it and take the bump?
At the end of the day, it's about being professional, and it's never about being mad or things like that. For me, I truly believe that even if someone rubs you the wrong way, you should still work with them in some way, unless some things go sour, obviously. But I'm a firm believer in kill them with kindness. If you're doing so much for them to make them look good, how could they hate you?
Right.
How could they? If I'm bumping my ass off for them and I'm selling crazy for them, I'm also making their job easy. What are they going to say? Oh, great job making me look good. I'm so mad. So my whole thing is just kill them with kindness, do your thing. And, that's the best way to get someone back, really. Because in wrestling specifically, just listen work together. And then you never know. They might be like, oh, I had the wrong impression about you. And then you guys end up being friends. So, you know.
So we've noticed, back to the thing that we were talking about, wrestling being fake, when you see people like slapping each other's chest, that shit's real, you know? When it gets to the well, first of all, man, oh my God.
Oh, dang.
People don't see that after, right? People don't see that later.
No. Yeah.
First of all, what's the recovery for that? Like I do Muay Thai, so I get my fucking legs kicked sometimes. You know what I mean? So I do like Epsom salt stuff, CBD stuff. What do you guys do for you guys? I mean, you have to wrestle every week. It's not like you can take a week off, right? You can't go out there with a bruise on your chest.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing because I'll go out there and have this bruise on my chest.
You know? Do it.
Yeah, I fight through it, man. And
like Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Cody, oh my God.
Jeez.
Yeah. So honestly, man, it just depends. Sometimes you get chopped a lot. Sometimes some guys just chop harder than others, and some don't. Mm-hmm. But you know, I got unfortunate and got chopped really hard, so it stayed there, and it's been there for like 2 weeks already. So it should go away soon, hopefully. But you know, some people just have really hard chops, and I think I have a scar from one somewhere in my chest somewhere. But
jeez.
I can't. I don't know if I can see it, but there's a scar
I
somewhere.
See it a little bit right there.
But to me, the recovery time is just, hey, brother, don't hit me in the chest. Not tonight. Not tonight. Not tonight. Hey, my leg hurts. So usually wrestlers will tell each other, hey, my leg's hurting. You know, watch out with my leg. You know, it's kind of been bugging. Mm-hmm. So we communicate that stuff. It's not like we just, you know, kill each other out there.
Go ahead. Yeah, right.
Communication. Yeah, there's communication out there.
So now that I'm thinking about it, the competitive aspect of someone trying to outshine each other in wrestling, would you know that? Would you know that your partner is trying to outshine you by no selling? Is that one of the indicators of I just got to ride the wave tonight instead of stick with the plan?
To me, I feel like outshining is just them trying to do more than you. Mm-hmm. Like if we call the match, maybe if they're just putting so much stuff, or they tell you, hey, like for example, let's say someone wants to take my power slam, but mm-hmm. they're like, all right, hit me with your power slam and then give me like 2 more big moves, but I kick out. That's when it's like they're just trying to say, oh, you know, you have to hit me with this many moves to beat me, you know. But when it comes to like that kind of style of what can indicate maybe them doing something in the ring, I would say it's more of the not so much no selling, but more of the how they're hitting you. So, you know, obviously we're working in there, and there's times where guys will like legit rock you. They'll hit you with a really hard forearm. Sometimes they'll hit you harder than usual right here, or on the jaw, or they'll chop you extremely hard, like for no apparent reason, or they'll hit you in the nose by accident, things like that, or they'll stomp you for real by accident. Jeez. Because, and usually their excuses, oh, I try to look aggressive, you know, I got carried away, my bad, but you know. Luckily for me, I'm one of those guys that if you hit me, I will hit you back. So
okay.
They usually back off when I hit them back. So
that's the sign, huh? Like, yo, chill, bro.
Yeah, that's my sign. And then they go, understood.
Right.
Yeah,
that's funny. All right, we're like at the hour 52 mark. Just gonna ask 2 more questions. We're gonna do like a rapid fire. We'll name 10 wrestlers, and then you just say one word about them. But before that, I wanted to ask you, and this is something we talk about too in our community. Do you think the CM Punk thing is a fix? You think it's a work, or you think that shit's some real heat? You never know these days, you know?
I think it's a work, but that's just because I'm a wrestler. I think everything's a work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When in doubt, it's a work.
Yeah, I think everything's a work. So that's just my opinion.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's funny. Like as a wrestling fan, once you notice that everything's at work, you start to see life like it's just everything's at work now.
Yeah,
Politics at work. It's funny.
everything. Boxing.
Works a work.
Yeah, boxing right now. It's funny. Oh yeah, one more thing. What do you think is the ceiling for Logan Paul? He fucking impressed all of us with his match.
I think he likes doing his podcast way more, so I think he's going to stick with that, because I did see an interview where he said that the podcast was the one thing he did that he felt he was having the most fun doing. So I think he's going to stick with that. I think the WWE thing is going to be more of a attraction match.
I see.
Yeah, so I don't think it'll be a full-time thing for him.
Well, he blew his knees out in that match. It was impressive, but I thought. I mean, you're right. I don't think he could pull that off every month or week. So an attraction match makes more sense for that. Shit, it made a lot of money though.
And if he did, he'd learn to not do that much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, that buckshot. Was it the buckshot lariat that messed him up?
Yeah, I think it was.
That move fucks people up, man. Shout out Adam Page.
Perfect.
No, his knees are fucked. Trust me. His knees are fucked.
Oh, it is.
Oh yeah, his knees are fucked.
Damn.
Is it the impact from the landing? You know, like boom.
Oh yeah. There's no way. I don't care how many times he does it. You'll see. 10, 20 years from now, he'll be in a wheelchair.
Damn.
Or he'll have the knee things forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nah, this shit is killing us, man. That's why we got to be smart.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man. All right.
But
Rapid fire.
At the end of the day, we know what we signed for.
Yeah, that's something crazy that my wife's in human resources, and she was mentioning about how the reason wrestlers come back for like these matches, Shawn Michaels, well, not maybe Shawn Michaels, but other wrestlers keep coming back, is because like first of all, they don't really make much, but like WWE they're independent contractors.
Yep.
So they're medical. They're not really medically taken care of. They don't really have like a retirement thing. It's just, you get your pay and that's it. So it's a kind of the sad truth. I mean, you get people so excited with a return, but the dark side of that is you don't know that it's because they weren't taken care of in the past, despite having the incredible matches that they've had.
Right.
It's nuts. Dark side of wrestling. Rapid fire. Let's do it, Danny. You name 5. I name 5. J2, you just say one word about him.
Okay.
I'll start. Shawn Michaels.
One of the best.
Danny, go ahead.
Bret Hart.
Best there was. Best there will be.
You have to, yeah.
Right.
All right. I'm going to go CM Punk.
Chicago.
Let's see here. Brock Lesnar.
Next big thing.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
Right. You can't say tribal chief, but Roman Reigns.
Head of the table.
Nice.
You can't change anything about that one.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say ooh-ah, but I think that's fine.
All right. Kenny Omega.
Kenny Omega. I'm gonna have to go with cleaner.
Let's go with Luchasaurus. This is interesting. We should have made this a topic.
Bad.
Yeah.
He does have a history of hurting people in the ring.
Dude, it's terrible.
Yeah. This is going to go back and even into Lucha. Conan.
Just because I've met him. I've met him.
Oh, okay.
Only because I've met him. I'm gonna have to say. I'm gonna say. You know what? I'll say something positive. I'll say. What's the word? I want to say help the lucha business tremendously. Something like that.
Killing with kindness, baby. Killing with kindness.
Oh yeah. Except Luchasaurus.
I'll say. If there was one thing he did bad in the ring, he seemed stiff sometimes. So there's that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Danny. I'll say the last one.
Oh, sure. I can't think right now.
All right, I'll say the last two.
Let's see here. Go for it.
X-Pac.
X-Pac?
I got one more.
Oh, he loves his green. I'll tell you that. He loves his green.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, I've met him
for sure.
Danny, go ahead.
Chris Jericho.
Last one for him.
Chris Jericho.
Yeah, he's my last one. Jericho. Yeah.
Very cool. I've met him. I did a New Japan promo and he was in it. It was for him versus Tanahashi. And I was pretending to be Tanahashi. They put the wig on me and he was the one that grabbed my head. So Jericho gave me his finish and he also grabbed my hair in the video. So it was dope. So I took the finish. I took his finish. So that was pretty dope. But he's very cool. Very cool guy. I liked him a lot.
Last one, my man. Playmaker.
I'm gonna have to say the future.
Boom. There you have it. Playmaker J2 Mattioli on the Cave podcast. Thanks for coming on, man. Where can we find you? And do you have anything in the future lined up that you want to tell the people?
Yeah, definitely. You guys can check me out on Twitter. You guys can also check me out on Instagram, Facebook, and I just made a profile on this new one. It's called Hive. Hive. It's like the new social media thing now, and you guys can all find me there at J2 Mattioli. Also on YouTube, you guys can just search me up if you guys ever want to check out any of my matches. It's on Level Up page, Millennium Pro, Pride Style, EWF. Just look up J2 Mattioli, the Playmaker. And the shows I have upcoming this week, I have MPW on Friday up in Chatsworth. They do shows every Friday at 7:30. And I also do EWF. They tend to do shows almost every week on Saturdays, usually in San Bernardino. But I have a big event happening on December 10th where I will be defending my EWF championship against Anthony Idol. And you guys got to be there for that one. That one's going to be at 7 p.m. And I also have a huge match December 3rd. I would really love everybody to check that out. That's down here in San Diego at Barrio Logan for Level Up Pro Wrestling as the Playmaker takes on his teacher, B-Boy.
Oh,
you have it.
Nice.
The student becomes the rival. J2 Mattioli, guys. Your socials are over there. I'll tag him on the post. Thanks for coming on, my guy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Shout out to you for waiting. Shout out to your patience. Shout out to my wife for finding the mic cord. Appreciate it, guys. This wouldn't happen without you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
And we're out.